This is the QB Huddle Podcast, hosted by Tim Smith and Brandon Noohi.
And welcome back to the QB Huddle Podcast. Tim Smith, joined by my podcast partner, Brandon Noohi. We're here to talk all things quarterback all season long. And you know we had a good weekend of football.
Oh, yeah.
Don't have to tell you that the Cowboys won on Sunday night. The 49ers won on Sunday afternoon. Neither games were real pretty, but they were both division games. We get the win. It was a great week of football. And, not a lot of college going on. We had a Heisman ceremony. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But we've got an action-packed show today because we've got several quarterbacks on fire, a lot of quarterbacks in the garbage juice, and then we had a few Brady moments that we're going to talk about. So really looking forward to today's show, but let's start with you, Brandon. Let's start this off with the 49ers show, the Brock Purdy show. Tell me your reactions to the 49ers Seahawks, and let's try to keep this somewhat brief because everybody's not a 49er fan.
I understand that, and I feel like our audience is like, is this turning into the Brock Purdy show?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it is, but shit, stop him. Stop him, and maybe he'll go in the garbage juice. He was in there. He was dabbling in it a few weeks back.
He's been in there.
But man, these guys are on a tear. I think it's not just necessarily Brock. I think it's more of a team effort. As we all know, man. I know people say, "Oh man, Brock Purdy this, Brock Purdy that." Man, he has a really, really, really good team around him. I mean, let's first and foremost. Second, he is as efficient as anyone that we have ever seen. Let's just call it what it is, right? I think a lot of people started to call him a baby Drew Brees with legs. I think that's pretty accurate. I think he's like a Drew Brees. He delivers a mail. He's very accurate. Now, Drew Brees obviously has an amazing pedigree. He's been doing this for years. Brock Purdy's only 23 years old. Let's not put the oil and anoint him right now. But I think what he's doing right now, he's making a strong case for MVP. We sweep the Seahawks, but this is our 5th straight win against the Seahawks. Drew Lock actually impressed me. I mean, despite 2 turnovers, I thought he did really well. But the 49ers were just too much for him, man. I mean, Brock Purdy, this is the 7th straight game. He's completed over 70% of his passes. There's 3 other quarterbacks in the history of the NFL to ever do that. One named Joe Montana.
Okay.
One named Drew Brees.
Okay.
And one name, Sam Bradford.
How did Sam Bradford get in the
I don't know, right? Hey, I think it was when Minnesota, probably Stephen could tell you, that guy was balling, right? But short and sweet, man. He got it done again. 2 TDs. He had 1 INT, just miscommunication. Outside of that, he was very efficient. And so good team win. What about your Cowboys, man?
I mean,
what they do?
First,
y'all handle business. That's what you did.
I like Brock Purdy. Don't get me wrong. I do like Brock Purdy. I like what he's doing. I like his confidence on 3rd down. I like how he completes passes. What I don't like, the reason I'm not ready to say MVP yet, let's give it a couple more weeks, is because he did go 0-3 without Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel.
True.
So I'm going to hold off. Personally, MVP I think should be Tyreek Hill or Deebo Samuel right now, in my opinion. But we know the MVP is a quarterback award.
Debo doesn't have the numbers, but he is a very impactful player.
The only reason
I'm not going to take that away from him.
Impactful. Right.
They have great players.
He's the only player in the league that can play running back and receiver at a high level. He's the only one.
Well, he actually broke the record for most rushing touchdowns by a receiver.
There you go.
In NFL history. He's a weapon, man. He's a weapon.
Valuable in your offense. Let's just put
absolutely. I mean, and to be honest, if you're going to throw MVP in, sorry to cut you off, but throw CMC in there. He leads the league in rushing.
Big fan of CMC. I thought he changed the dynamics of your offense.
I agree.
So because you didn't have an every down running back before he came in.
I agree.
So Debo was more like a toy, right? We'll use him we'll take him out of the garage every now and then and hand him the ball for.
Well, right now we got a damn Ferrari, and Brock Purdy is driving it. He is killing it. So continue to do your thing, young man. Do your thing.
Can't take anything away from it, although people continue to try to do so. But people did that to Tom Brady his entire career, so I wouldn't stress out about it too much. As for the Cowboys and Eagles, that was a fun game from start to finish. You can kind of hear my voice is kind of scraggly today. A lot of screaming and yelling last night. The game starts with Dak and the Cowboys going right down the field on offense. No problem whatsoever getting into the end zone. And then, the defense, they caused turnovers, right? We were giving up 20-20, no question. I mean, the Eagles were moving up and down the field, but then, and the fumbles weren't, they were dropping the ball. We were punching the ball out. We were stripping the ball from them. And that's what I like to see. We were actually forcing those fumbles. They weren't just mistakes made by the Eagles. And then Jalen Hurts takes off running. He fumbles inside the red zone. That guy's got 15 turnovers right now. So I think the MVP talk for Jalen is out the window. I think the Eagles are cooked. I think they have an easy schedule. They'll probably win some games. And
they're going to win the East.
They'll probably win the division. But I'm not worried about them after what I saw. They've been in too many close games that they've had to pull out because of a drop ball or missed call or something fluky happening. And now it's catching up to them. They've been blown out 2 weeks in a row by teams that they thought they could beat, and that teams that they'll have to beat to get to where they want to go. And they're not going to get there. I'm not scared of the Eagles anymore. I think this is a 2-team race, Brandon, and it's funny that we're doing the QB huddle. It's funny that we're Cowboy 49er fans. And I think that this thing comes down to two teams, and that's it. In my mind right now, a lot can change over the course of the next few weeks, but that's kind of where I'm at. So
you and I have a few matchups, upcoming matchups we still can't overlook.
Well, I mean,
you got to finish your job.
This is a huge week as the Cowboys travel to Buffalo. Hopefully there's no Buffalo storms as far as snowstorms or anything catastrophic like that. But
that's dangerous waters right there, my friend.
This is a game against a very high potent AFC team who just, went into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs. So
took it away.
We're going to see the Cowboys could get a lot of respect by going into Buffalo and beating them next week, right?
Yeah.
I think Dak is playing at a high enough level to do it and match Josh. I think the key to that game, and we'll talk about this on the Couch Coach, I'm sure. I think the key to that game is going to be to make Josh Allen uncomfortable and make him do Josh Allen type things. And our defense can certainly do that.
You have the ability to take away the ball, and you guys score on defense. That's something the 49ers haven't yet to do is score. But, we lead the league in takeaways, though.
Well, there you go. Well, we're catching up. We got to be catching up.
You got to score touchdowns, though. I wish we could do that.
Touchdowns. I was disappointed. I was there last night. My wife asked me on the way to the game if we were going to have a pick six. We did not have a pick six. I was really hoping for that. We had no interceptions, as a matter of fact.
None.
But then again, we had all those fumbles, which was a lot of fun, and got to see Jalen take a few really good pops last night. So that's always fun within the scope of the game. It's fun to see the other quarterback get slammed just a few times. So let's move on to one of our favorite segments. Been with us all year. On fire. We've already talked about a couple guys, but let's just go ahead and go through it because I know we've got a bucket full. Let's start with you, Brandon. Who's on fire this week?
Man, this guy hasn't even set foot, didn't even tippy toe into the on fire segment, right? But I got to give credit where credit's due. A huge win at home. He got his job back, and it looks like he played lights out. I'm gonna go with Zach Wilson.
Agreed.
Zach Wilson was 27 to 36, 300 yards in a monsoon.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Right? 2 TDs, no interceptions. He outplayed the favorite for the Offensive Rookie of the Year in C.J. Stroud by a long shot. Is this a turning point for Zach Wilson? Does he know that Aaron Rodgers has his back because he went to the media and expressed that what they were doing with Zach was chicken poo?
Yeah.
Right?
He did not like it.
He did not like it. I think having Aaron Rodgers as a true mentor, you're starting to see the best out of Zach. Could they turn around and make a run? This year's been crazy in the AFC. It's really no true locks outside of Miami, the Chiefs,
and Baltimore.
That's
are the Chiefs a lock anymore?
They might be. They're
going to win their division, but are they a lock to do anything in the playoffs?
Well, they're gonna have to go on the road. And the crazy part about teams like this is they've been there before. Nothing shakes them, right? They found a way to overcome despite Patrick Mahomes not playing very well. I think they'll be able to make a run. I mean, Baltimore and Miami play some close games occasionally, play down to other teams.
Right.
And that's one thing you can't do with the Chiefs. You cannot like fold into
No.
into what they want to do, because they're going to keep it close. So can those other two teams win close games? I think they can, but we'll see. Who you got?
Well, I'm going to stay in the AFC, and I'm going to go to the AFC North. This guy came off the couch to throw for over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, just the 1 interception, and a big win to keep Cleveland relevant, who we all thought was dead when Deshaun Watson went down. Joe Flacco was in the building, ladies and gentlemen, and looks like Baltimore Raven Joe Flacco. I mean, he is out there slinging the rock. Now,
he's dealing.
Funny story. He was back on practice squad this morning, which got tweeted out, which sent the media into a frenzy. But by rule, because the Browns hadn't signed him to a full year contract, and because he came from the practice squad, even though he played, by rule he had to go back to the practice squad this morning. He'll be back on the active roster by the end of the day. But funny story, he is currently on the practice squad. For the Cleveland Browns after throwing for over 300 yards yesterday. And I thought he looked good. And listening to him talk after the game, what he was most excited about is that his kids now are old enough to understand that daddy's playing football. And so could you imagine, we'll talk about this later, but could you imagine, Brandon, in about 5 years going back to play football and Roman is old enough to understand what you're doing? That's where Joe Flacco's at right now, and he looks like he's having the time of his life.
Oh yeah, he's cherishing the moment. He's relishing in it. Good thing about it, Joe Flacco's familiar with these kind of teams, right? Very defensive driven teams.
He's very good.
Take care of the ball, heavy run game. Yeah. It's very similar to what he's been accustomed to his entire career. So I don't think it's over for Cleveland. I don't. No. If he's going to play at this level. I mean, right now he's got 5 TDs and 1 pick. It's pretty good. It's pretty good for a guy who just rolled off the couch playing Halo.
100%. The Browns are going to be a problem. The Browns are going to be an issue.
And you get Myles Garrett back.
Oh, boy. And Myles Garrett's back. And that's another guy that could be thrown around an MVP conversation. We've got 2 more guys. We both got the same guys for On Fire. Which one do you want to take?
Man, I'm going to take Purdy.
You want to take your home? I know it. Go ahead.
I think this is one of
but go ahead.
Listen, this is one of the most – I'm going to keep it short and sweet. This is one of the most impressive games I've seen from him. Why? Because things weren't going his way. He managed to find a way to get it done. People say he can't throw the deep ball. He's actually number 1 in yards in yards, over 20 yards, excuse me. He's number 1. And he can throw the deep ball, guys. He can do anything you want him to do. He can beat you outside, inside, against the blitz. Doesn't matter, right? People find ways to pick at him. Does he have a great team? Yes, he does. Fantastic team.
That's not his fault.
But there's several quarterbacks that have played in the Shanahan offense, and I don't think any quarterback has ever looked like him, ever. And that's not even saying Matt Ryan MVP year. No quarterback has looked like him. Not even close, right? So give credit where credit's due. The kid's on fire. He stays on fire. I hope he continues, just stays the course, right? Don't get too cute. It looks like he's a very humble, modest kid, right? And he's just enjoying being the 49er quarterback. And it looks like we got a guy for the future.
Okay. Fair enough.
See? That wasn't that bad.
It's not too bad. It's not too bad. You know where I'm going to go? I'm going to go for the second week in a row, back to Dallas. Dak Prescott, you yourself said to me, this was the biggest regular season game of his career. I said
Absolutely.
Back to you, I was glad you weren't in the locker room to give him.
Absolutely. I think he knew that. I think he knew that.
Well, if indeed
I think he knew
that. If he felt that. Now, going to the game last night, I felt the most excitement that I felt since 2014 going to the Lions game. I remember the feeling going to that game. Romo beat the Lions that day. It was just a feeling of something special is going to happen today. We're going to win this game. We're going to get over the hump, right? No one's going to be bashing Tony Romo after the game is over. They're going to be loving him. Same feeling I had yesterday. No one's going to be bashing Dak Prescott at the end of this game. We're going to beat the Eagles. Dak's going to play great, and he's going to stay. He's going to stay up at the top of the mountain where he has ascended this year. And sure enough, 24 for 39, 271. He had the one silly sack fumble. I thought he held on to the ball a little bit too long, looking to make a big play. He missed 1 or 2 reads throughout the night, but he made some big throws when he needed to. He had a Brady moment last night, which you and I didn't talk about earlier when we had our pre-production meeting, but I'm going to bring it up because it was right before half and it was pretty impressive. Pretty much closed out the game at halftime for the Cowboys last night. So, man, Dak was on fire without him. I don't think we're doing what we're doing. And so he is also in that MVP discussion. He and Brock Purdy, obviously, right now are number 1 and number 2, with Brock being at the number 1 because he beat Dak earlier in the year. So that hurt a little bit. I don't want to say that again out loud. I said it out loud. There we are.
I mean, it is what it is. The proof's in the pudding. I think what Dak is doing, he is playing at a very, very high level. They even said in commentary, you were at the game, but I was overhearing it, and I can't stand Chris Collinsworth. But the thing about it, what Dak expressed about his cadence and just understanding and being able to level out things and see different schematic changes to where he can adjust on things, I think that's something that is paramount to his success because it slows the game down. It allows him to make the proper checks. He gets off his number 1 and number 2 to the flats extremely fast. I love the efficiency. I love how he's processing information. He looks like one of the top quarterbacks in the league right now. I mean, I just call it what it is.
I like our tight end Ferguson. I like how he's using
a dog.
Ferguson.
And you got a lot of good weapons, man. As much as you talk about the 49ers, they got a lot of good weapons. Tony Pollard is a very similar skill set. You got CeeDee Lamb, who I think him and Brandon Ayuk are very similar. I think CeeDee may be better with the ball, but I don't know if he's a better route runner than Ayuk. Right? Okay. I think CeeDee's probably better with the ball. It's kind of like a Debo, but he's not as big as Debo. But it's just like you put the ball in his hands, he's gonna make chicken salad out of chicken, or chicken shit out of chicken salad, or chicken salad out of chicken shit. Excuse me.
Him and Ferguson too. I mean, you get the ball on Ferguson. That dude,
big tight end, big physical tight end. Yeah,
he had his second.
You got weapons, man.
Weeks. Ferguson, I said to Gretchen last night, Ferguson's the next jersey I'm getting for the Cowboys, number 87.
He's a dog, man. He plays with intensity.
Love him.
And it's good to see Dak have a good security blanket. I think you guys are doing well, man. I can't say anything bad. All I would say is I wasn't too impressed with your win, though. I wasn't because you can't. It is a divisional win, but you can't have. I mean, you take away the 15 points the kicker just gave you, it's 18-13, bro.
I mean, sometimes
I felt like your offense idled down. They still struggle in the red zone, which has been an Achilles heel of you guys the entire year.
Let's talk about that because we didn't really struggle in the red zone yesterday. The only thing that
I felt like you did
yesterday was holding calls.
There you go.
I'm not saying if they were legit or not. I can say that the one holding was not legit. The one holding call they did was not legit. The other 4 or 5 might have been, but who has 7, 8 holding calls on them in one game? You don't see that very often since like the 70s Raiders. So it bothered me that every time we got inside the 30,
young for that. I don't know.
Every time we get inside the 30, we got a holding penalty, and now we're back outside the 40.
Yeah.
We have a great kicker. Love that kid.
I mean, he's clutch, 30 for 30. Yeah. I mean, he's killing it. You guys finally found a kicker. It looks like Dak is turning a corner. You guys are getting hot. Don't believe in your own hype. Just continue the course.
Here's what
that's how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to fall back, man.
I'm going to tell you happen. What I really liked about Dak last night, and we can move on. You and I go to games, and we watch how the quarterbacks interact on the sidelines, right? We watch Tom Brady with the pad, put down the pad, get up, throw the ball. He'll throw 100 balls in between defense being on the field and him getting back on the field. You see other quarterbacks that don't do anything. They just go over to the sideline, they put their coat on, and they just sit there and they pout, and that's irritating. What Dak was doing last night, this man, after he'd get his pad, he'd sit there and talk with Rush. He'd sit and talk with Lance. Lance would then go over and talk to some other coaches. Dak was up and down the sidelines talking to everybody, talking to defense, offense, receivers, offensive linemen. He was in everybody's ear all night long.
He's all in.
Total control of that team. Complete control of that team, and that's what I love seeing. And then he would get up and throw. He was throwing 50 passes every time in between drives, so he was always warm, ready to go. I loved it, man. He really conducted himself.
That's a sign of a veteran leader and a sign of a good commander. So kudos 100%. To you guys. Hopefully it is destiny that we meet again in Santa Clara.
That will be. I think we're back in the 80s, man. I think we're going to meet in the NFC title game in Santa Clara. And we're going to take care of business that day. We're going to take.
Don't believe it.
2 years in a row, we owe you at this point.
Don't believe in your own hype.
Okay. Anyway.
Hey, you just take care of business. And we take care of business.
We got to beat Buffalo.
And all we can. Any team, as you know, this was the week of the upsets. Any team can get beat on any given day. Yeah. It's good that we're sitting at number 1 and number 2. We control our destiny. We'll see you at the top. We'll see you at the top.
Number 2, we're gonna dispense Philly for you because we'll be the 5th seed. So we'll dispense Philly, and then we'll come and we'll visit with you. I'm not worried about Philly at all.
Okay. Well, hey, handle business, and we'll see you there.
So let's back up the garbage juice truck. We got a big bucket this week, man. We got a lot of guys that need to take up residence in the garbage juice. It's not our fault. It's your fault. Stop sucking, and we won't put you in here. But you sucked this week. All of you that we're going to talk about, you absolutely were garbage juice. Let's start with you, Brandon. Give me your first one because we got a bunch.
Jared Goff, what are you doing?
My goodness, right away.
What are you doing? You've had like terrible. 7 turnovers in 3 games. Yeah. And not just interceptions, but fumbles. Take care of the damn ball.
Losing to the
Bears.
Like,
what's going on? I predicted you guys as my dark horse, and you let me down. You let me down. I know we're going to kick your tail when you come over there, but outside of that, man, take care of business because now you got Minnesota. Their fans are kind of being very optimistic. And then you got the Chicago Bears fans that are playing spoilers to everybody because they know. I mean, hey, man, I don't know. It's and then you got Green Bay in the mix if they get it done tonight versus the Giants. So it's just you are literally letting all of us down right now.
Yes.
And I'm not even a Lions fan, but it's just it's when you get away from the run, it exposes you to a degree. You got to be able to, and granted, your run game is playoff football run game. Defense, can't stop a nosebleed. It's been the same thing for the past 3 years. But Jared Goff he has not been playing up to the level that everybody's giving him credit for, especially during that first quarter of the season, first half of the season, basically. And I got you on fantasy, man. Damn it. Now, I know it's fantasy, but, man, you only gave me 8 points, man. Come on, man. Help me out, man. Help me out. Who you got?
All right. I'm going to take us to a game. One game. In this game, there were 3 quarterbacks. All 3 quarterbacks belong in the garbage juice together. I'm talking about the Raiders and the Vikings that ended in a 3-0 final score. Nick Mullens and Josh Dobbs both played quarterback for the Vikings. They combined for 146 yards, no touchdowns. Aiden O'Connell came in for the Raiders. He was 21 of 32 for 171, 1 interception, no touchdowns. No points on the board outside of 1 field goal for an entire football game. I don't know if I can remember the last time I've seen that bad of quarterback play between 2 teams in 1 game. Absolutely terrible. Like, what is going on? It takes 2 quarterbacks to throw for just over 100 yards. That's awful. So that's that. I'm going to start there. I'm going to let you take the next one because we got.
I'm going to continue to go because Trevor Lawrence. I am still not a believer. I mean, yes, you threw 3 touchdowns, but 3 picks.
3 picks
against the Bengals and Jake Browning when it was your opportunity to come back. Now I know you're playing He-Man. Should have set your ass down if you couldn't
just sit down.
Be mobile, right? I mean, he threw. It's just not looking good, man. He's just 2 up, 2 down for me. For some guy who once got projected as the next big thing, looks to be a Jag. Prince Jag.
Prince looks like
just another guy.
Yeah.
And you play for the Jags. How ironic.
It's over for that.
Who else you got?
Oh, I hate to say this because he got hurt in the game, but before he got hurt, he looked like a rookie for the first time all season. C.J. Stroud had his welcome to the NFL game this weekend.
Yes, he did.
He went 10 for 23, no touchdowns. He got the concussion. I mean, his head hit the ground harder than I've seen in quite a while. I felt really bad for him.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he just got kicked around this weekend. That's not the C.J. Stroud that we've seen all season. I'm sure he's going to rebound. Everybody goes through it. So don't take this as hate. But poor C.J. he's got to be in the garbage juice the way he played this week.
It's pretty bad, man. And I got another one. And I think C.J., yes, it is welcome to the NFL. But you were playing against a really good defense. That defense is still good. I mean, but you can only get away with so much, and Zach Wilson just happened to turn up on you, and he had a day. I'm gonna go with probably the worst performance in my opinion.
Okay.
Just because it doesn't seem like you're having fun anymore. It looks that way. It looks that way. And I'm going to go with Bryce Young.
Ooh.
I'm going to go with Bryce Young, and I'm going to tell you why. For the first time in your life, you are on a team where you have to truly will your team. You're always around good players your entire career. Even maybe your freshman year when you went to high school somewhere else and you balled out a little bit, right? But this is the first time really adversity has set in to where it's just like, are you really the guy? My man was 36% completion the other day.
13 for 30.
Barely over 100. Yeah, barely over 100 yards against a very sketchy New Orleans team.
Right.
He is actually on pace of having one of the worst starts of any rookie in his career. He has maybe one of the worst 6-game stretches where he's only completing 52% of his passes, 2 total touchdowns, 165 yards a game, 5 INTs, a 59.5 or passer rating, and 6 straight losses. Would you say that is NFL number 1 draft pick?
No, I never thought he was.
That looks bad, and it just looks like, man, I mean, he was a star at Mater Dei. He was a star at Alabama. You're playing with these guys. Now you're going to have to find yourself to will yourself to – I'm not saying that you don't have the talent because I think you do. But
so you don't think he's a bust? You don't think he's a bust yet?
I don't think he's a bust, but I don't think – I don't see a leader of grown men. There's a difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like grown men. Like he still talks like a kid. He sounds like a kid.
He looks like a child.
And I don't see the maturation process. You may have it all up here, and you may have your psychology background, you know, with your dad and all this, but you're having to galvanize grown men who have families.
Yeah.
And you're stepping in to be that guy for that franchise. I don't think I've ever seen the Panthers this bad.
It's pretty bad.
They're bad. Like they're not even competing. At least Steve Wilkes, when he took the internship, he had those boys competing.
It makes you
every game in and out, right?
It makes you wonder what the GMs are looking at and why the media was so big on Bryce Young, number 1 pick, Bryce Young, number 1 pick. We understand he played at Alabama.
Sure.
5-star athletes all around him. Look, he's not very big. He's not extremely athletic. He doesn't have the strongest arm. His best attribute is his mind. He's extremely smart. He might be one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league outside of the astronaut Josh Dobbs and a few. I mean, Jalen Hurts is another guy, super smart. Give you that credit. His IQ is off the charts, but he doesn't have the ability to play up to his level of IQ. And so I wonder,
slow.
Even if you're a GM, right, and you hear all this Bryce Young, number one, and you have the fans in your ear, get Bryce Young, Alabama.
Sure.
But you go to the scouting combine, what are you looking at? Do you really want the guy that looks like he's there from Make-A-Wish?
Well, he didn't throw.
A guy that looks like he's a franchise quarterback, bro.
Yeah, and granted, there's a lot of guys that are playing good that don't look the part, right? Don't physically look the part.
Yeah, but he really doesn't look the part. He looks like he's there, like I said, in a Make-A-Wish.
It looks like he's just there for a check.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. It just looks like Will Levis has more enthusiasm than Bryce Young. It's just like I'm always looking at his body language. I always look at quarterbacks' body language, especially in bad situations, man. And I watched that game, and I said for the first time I have seen Bryce Young play, it looks like he does not want to be there.
No, yeah, he doesn't look like he
cares at all. He doesn't look like he's having fun anymore. No. And Bryce Young's a very talented young man. And I know this clip may go out of saying, I don't know if you can lead grown men or what this and that, but man, you're still a kid and you're trying to figure it out. But damn it, you better figure it out because the NFL is not for long. Average player, goes in about 3 years.
Right.
And there's some former NFL quarterbacks who were number 1 and were out the league within 4 years. So I don't know, man. You're not putting enough film to have 31 other owners convinced that they can make a trade.
Exactly.
And it's not to say that you can make a trade. Yes, you're on a rookie deal, but it's like, damn, dude, you're that bad? It's that bad.
It's bad.
Like, at this point, they need to put in Andy Dalton. At this point. That's just my opinion, man. You got to get some type of points.
Right. Half the coaching staff wanted that to happen weeks and weeks ago, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, at least, Andy's going to compete and will and fight for his team like he's a leader.
Yeah.
And so we've seen Andy do that. But and maybe this is something that Bryce Young can learn from. This is not to say that he's not physically ready. Mentally, I don't know if he's ready.
I think he's more mentally ready than he is physically ready.
I don't see the mental side, man.
So
I see he's checked out.
He might be.
He may not even throw for double-digit touchdowns this year, Tim. And this is 18 games, 17 games.
It's not good, but
in a spread style league.
Or the Ravens, the Panthers really mortgaged the franchise on Bryce Young. I mean, they got rid of a couple number one picks. They get rid of the number one wide receiver, and then they get this guy in here. They get Adam Thielen, and it's just not a good look. I'm going to give you one more guy to take up residence in the garbage juice. This is his second week in a row, so he's comfortable. He's got his sheets laid out. He's got his little routine. He's really comfortable there in the garbage juice, and he comes from Alabama too. I mean, he spent some time at Alabama. He's really an Oklahoma quarterback, but he's Jalen Hurts. 18 for 27 last night, 197. Right, some empty calorie yards there. No touchdowns, no interceptions, but he had the big fumble in the red zone. This guy has 19 passing touchdowns and 15 total turnovers this year. I get he's got a lot of rushing touchdowns, on the quarterback sneaks and whatnot. But I'll tell you what I saw was body language from a guy that looked defeated last night. He looked defeated the week before, and they say it's in his face, right? And they always say, well, he never gets too high, he never gets too low. I'm going to need more from my franchise quarterback. I need some fire. I don't see any fire. I see you walking around like it doesn't matter. I see A.J. Brown with some fire. The word is that A.J. went after Jalen last night in the locker room at halftime in such a way that was saying, hey, you need to get me the ball. You need to throw. And Jalen went back at him, and apparently it got pretty heated, is the tweet that I saw earlier today. And we know that AB has been having problems throughout the year with Jalen, right? We know he's been begging for the ball. So there's some issues there in Philly, and Jalen has not been playing well. And, when you get him to try to become a drop back passer, and it typically doesn't go well. When you get them out of the run game, it typically doesn't go well. And what the Cowboys did last night was get up early and force the Eagles to press a little bit, do things they don't want to do. I loved it, but he's not been good the last 2 weeks. I think he's completely out of the MVP conversation at this point.
Oh,
what do you think?
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know. Part of me feels like they're just worn out because that was such a tough stretch of games that this should smooth it over a little bit. I think you'll see a different Eagles team coming out for the last 4 games. They'll end up winning the East. They'll take the number 2 seed. But I just think this was a stretch of games where they came out 3-2. Right? They should have lost more. Could have been worse. Could have been worse. It could have been worse. Right? They went down to the wire on each of those other games. So I think them coming out 3-2 and still controlling their destiny to win the division. Number 1 seed is in question. I mean, at this point, 49ers just got to run the table. There's this period. We can't afford to lose. Neither can they.
This isn't exciting December at all.
This is coming down to it. And right now, the teams that get hot in December are the teams that go into January dominating. Yeah. And so far in December, these first 2 weeks, the Eagles have not showed up. So be a lookout on that.
They have not. They just haven't. The Cowboys and the 49ers have. The Lions and the Eagles have not. And right now, as it looks, we've got a 2-team race in the NFC.
Yep.
So we had some surprises this weekend. We always like to talk about who kind of took us off guard. For me, it was Bailey Zappi in New England, beating the Pittsburgh Steelers. 19 for 28, 240, 3 touchdowns from Billy Zappi. He had 1 interception. Here's what's crazy. I don't know if you saw this after the game. He goes into the game. Bill O'Brien's there. He gives him a big, dap him up, hugs him. Woo, they're kind of crazy. Then Bill Belichick's on the other side of the locker room. Bill Belichick calls out to Bailey. Bailey looks over, straightens himself up, walks over, shakes his hand. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Walks away, gets back to celebrating. but it was funny how he treated Bill O'Brien compared to,
Oh,
straight face,
man.
yes, sir, thank you very much, to Bill Belichick. It was
General
awesome.
Cornwall.
But, yeah, Bailey Zappi beats the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That was a huge one.
And has a great day doing it. I mean, it wasn't an ugly game for him, 3 touchdowns. So who surprised you this weekend?
Who surprised me? It's not good. I will say this, though. Pat Mahomes has lost 4 of his last 6 games.
Is that what's surprising?
That's very surprising to me.
It is surprising.
I haven't seen him like this. A lot of adversity thrown his way. He becomes a bit more emotional. And you saw him go crazy. Even though he was 1,000% wrong. Right?
Well, we're going
to show that, hey, he's a good teammate. But has Pat been exposed to a degree? And I know not a lot of people are talking about this because, yes, Pat Mahomes is the best quarterback of this era. There's no question. I'm not going to take that away from him. But when they're always putting it on the receivers, and then you go back and you watch film, and you see some of the throws that are made, is it really on the receivers? I mean, the dude is throwing at people's ankles.
The one to Scantling against the Eagles, that was...
Okay. That was a great throw. Okay. Right? Dime. Right? But what are some of the other throws on the big third down plays? And he's bouncing it off the turf or hitting it at people's knees.
He's playing a little erratic. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's very sporadic with his feet. Obviously, he's always has been. So we're seeing some of the things that he used to do and get away with, and we all thought it was great. But now it's becoming a bit of a problem. And it's like, does Andy Reid need to pull Pat back and be like, hey, stop being so damn sporadic. Just play within the offense sometimes, right? And I think that it's not to say he gets a little full of himself. It's just who he is. That's his natural instincts. But he's got to kind of dial it back down. Dial it back again. Get back to where you were last year, where you were dishing and diving from the pocket. I told you last year, that ankle problem was probably the best thing that ever happened to him.
Yeah, I like him much better as a quarterback when he plays more from the pocket.
He's so erratic. God,
I get it that you're exciting. You can do all these great things.
Yeah, it's cool.
Throw all the different platforms, but sometimes it's too much, right? He's like,
it's a little too much, man. It's a little too much. And another person that surprised me, and I'll tell you this right now, and he should have been on our Fire segment, Lamar Jackson. I mean, he had almost over 350 total offensive yards. Great day for him, 3 touchdowns. The one thing that I really wanted to see from Lamar is, could he play from behind? And he did. And he played it to perfection, though. He went 3 and out in OT. He was down by 8. And he came back and put him up, and they tied the game at 31-31 going into overtime. Now that makes me even fear you even more, because now I know you can do it, right? Hostile territory. I mean, it's in their own place, but it's the Rams. It's Aaron Donald, right? Sometimes those things go their way, right? Matthew Stafford was dealing, but man, Lamar really impressed me with that.
That was the first really team that has hung with Baltimore.
100%. And that makes me feel even better, because we have schematically, we're very much the same, and so that just lets me know schematically we give that defense fits. Good luck.
Yeah,
so
the defense
now I feel confident in it even more.
The defense did not look great yesterday. That's for sure. Well, that's enough of all the bad talk, right? As we get into the more to the good talk, there used to be a guy that played in this league. He played for a long time. He was one Mr. Tom Brady, and he had what we call Brady moments. Only Brady could do, like no one else, where he would take the team before the half or before the end of the game, or sometimes in the whole fourth quarter, and just will them to win the game, right? With his great play and his ice in his veins. We had a couple of Brady moments last night. We had about 3 or 4 of them this weekend. Let you start with them. Let you start off, man. Who was your favorite Brady moment of the weekend?
Man, I had 2 of them. I had Lamar Jackson. I thought that was real solid. What he did. I have Josh Allen coming back and putting him on his back, and I got another guy, Baker Mayfield. Those are 3 that really stood out. Games on the line, 2-minute drill. Can you execute and get your team in the end zone?
Yeah.
He did that. They all did it. So kudos to all those guys.
Let's talk a little details on all those guys. And I'm going to add one more, and that's going to be Dak. And we'll start with his details. Before halftime last night, he goes on an 11-play, 1 minute and 28 yard drive, 1 minute 28 second drive, started at their own 25-yard line, ends with a 1 yard pass to Michael Gallup. He goes 5 of 6 on the drive. Yes, we had a penalty to help us out, but the big play was the big pass down the middle to Ferguson, where he hits him on the third down to keep our drive alive. And we're thinking field goal now, we're thinking touchdown, and he did it. And I don't see Dak pull that off very often. And really, at that point, it was 24-6. Game's over. Game was over at that point. And that's so that was awesome. Lamar Jackson at one point was down. He went on a 14-9 run before overtime, which was great in the fourth quarter. You love that. He hit Zay Flowers on a 21-yard touchdown pass, finishing off a 75-yard drive. And then you had the walk-off punt return. So that was a great day for Lamar and the Ravens, because every team, I think, needs to have that in their mind, that they can play from behind, that they can come back.
Yeah, that makes them even more dangerous.
You talked about Baker. 252 left in the game. He went on a 15-play drive that started at their own 25-yard line. Ends in an 11-yard touchdown pass, beating the Falcons. And by the way, the Buccaneers are still alive in that division somehow. That division's just up for grabs. Now they have the same record as the Falcons. And they've now split with the Falcons. So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. We're going to talk about playoffs here in a minute. But wow, what a great day for quarterbacks.
Absolutely.
I mean, as far as Brady moments go, you got to love that. You got to love quarterbacks just getting in there and saying, hey, look, there's John Candy. Let's go win the Super Bowl. That was Joe Montana, by the way.
Those guys all had ice in their veins during the most crucial moments. And so,
yes, love that. So we're about the halfway point of our show. All right, so Brandon, we're on another show called The Couch Coach. Apologize about those technical difficulties, but tell the folks what they can expect from the other podcasts that we're on, The Couch Coach.
Straight fire, man. We're bringing you all NFL topics, trending topics. We predicted a lot. This is a great panel, and we have great guests that come on. We had former first-round pick Baltimore Ravens, Mark Clayton, OU Hall of Famer, come on the show and join us last week. We're going to have another potential future NFL Hall of Famer as well coming on the following week. We got some special guests leading up into the playoffs, man. If you're a part of our community, please like, subscribe, share, comment. Give us your feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. We want to know. This is something we're very passionate about. If one person listens, hey, that's all we care, right? Who cares what we have to say? But at the end of the day, we love it because we are very consistent with the accuracy that we deliver in. So we're definitely taking notes. We really analyze the game from a schematic standing, give you our points. You take it and run with it. I even know on fantasy topics, we still share a lot of nuggets there. So if you could like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, all social media platform, including TikTok. We're out there. Join us Fridays as the Couch Coach continues to thrive. And I'm taking pauses because you know why?
Why?
Because it's that damn good.
Ooh. Okay. We are smarter than the people that make millions.
Anyway. I mean, you seen Nick Wright call out the bullshit he's been calling out all year? Oh, right. Lord.
It's true. It's true.
Must be nice to get paid to say a lot of crap.
I mean, yeah, we say a lot of crap for free. So
hey, but Nick's been – I like Nick's analogies, though. I give him that sometimes. Sometimes. Then he's wrong a lot, though, outside of Mahomes.
So
outside of Mahomes?
He loves Mahomes. He's just a Chiefs fan. New segment for this week. We try to bring something new and fresh to the show each and every week. This week, we'll have a brief conversation about the MVP race and what's going on with the playoff picture right now, especially with all the injuries that we've seen to particularly AFC quarterbacks. Brandon, we know there's really two guys in the MVP race currently, but there's some other guys like a Lamar Jackson that has put himself back into the conversation. And then there's the Tyreek Hills, the Debos, the Trent Williams, the Micah Parsons, the Myles Garretts that aren't getting the same consideration of others. But based on what we know, who do you think is going to win this MVP race?
Man, it's a quarterback war. Purdy controls his destiny. He doesn't have to do too much. You can just continue to do what you're doing, and you'll run away with this thing. You'll run away with it. He has the highest passer rating in NFL history with over 500 passing attempts. I know that's a crazy stat.
So the 3-game skid you don't think is a factor?
I don't think it is, because at the end of the day, with Cleveland, number one, he did put us in a position to win, right? Jake Moody missed a field goal. Okay. He had an opportunity against Minnesota, didn't get it done. Statistically, he wasn't bad outside of those 2 picks, but from our understanding, he was concussed. There's no excuse. Got to do better and learn from your mistakes. And number 3, with Joe Burrow, you just caught a hellfire with Joe Burrow. He was playing at the top of his game. It looked very easy. Picked us apart, but he still threw for over 300 plus yards. So not necessarily saying statistically did it falter a little bit. It might have gave some discrepancies, but how has he overcome that since that stretch?
Okay.
He's been fantastic. But if you're going to give it to anybody, in my opinion, for the 49ers, give it to CMC. Or you give it to a guy like Tyreek Hill, because Tyreek Hill changes that offense entirely.
Yeah. I think right?
Tyreek Hill, I mean, to me, I feel like he deserves it. If he hits his 2,000 yards, I mean, that's crazy, right? It's never been done.
I'm with Tyreek Hill. I'm not mad at Dak, being in consideration. I think
it's nice to have.
Listen, if the Cowboys don't lose any games in December and Dak keeps playing the way he's playing, he might win it. Strong consideration.
He might win it.
American quarterback to win MVP this year. Let's talk about the playoff picture. We know who's at the top. We know it's the 49ers. We know the Cowboys are 2 right now. That's not going to last. The Eagles' schedule is too easy. The Eagles will get back to number 2. I really want to talk about the bottom portion of these playoffs, though, because teams, if we start in the NFC, you got the Vikings that are still fighting to stay alive. You got the Packers that are in right now playing hot. You've got the Rams ascending, Seattle falling, and the Falcons falling. All the while, you've got the Buccaneers that right now are the 4 seed. So it's kind of crazy, because a couple of weeks ago the Buccaneers were out and they weren't going to make the playoffs. Yep. Who do you think is going to end up? Give me your top 7 NFC teams that you think will actually end up being in this thing.
Oh, my top 7 from the NFC?
Yeah.
Ooh. I mean, well, obviously we're going to start with the 49ers.
Well, we know that. We know the 49ers, the Cowboys.
But you said top 7 here, so now it gets interesting. I think right now where it's at, Tampa controls their destiny here. Philly obviously has a easier schedule coming up. They went 3-2 during that gauntlet. Minnesota's going to have a tough one coming up, right? I just don't think, as good as their defense is, I don't think they have I don't know if they can do it offensively. I just don't see it. I don't think they can.
I don't either.
Especially when you lay an egg like that to the Raiders. Now, I'm not saying the Raiders are just a dominant defense. They got some dogs out there. But, man, who's your commander here? What's going on with Josh Dobbs? I mean, is he getting ready for his NASA trip? Or is he in the playbook? Because it looks like 2 different quarterbacks in the past 3 games.
Right.
Don't be surprised if the Rams find a way to sneak in. I think what they showed everybody is that they can play. They can play with one of the best teams in the league, if not the best. They managed to come about. Now, the only thing that's going to kill them is they got to play us the last game. And is that a playoff contention game? And if we close in and we have to win, we're going to have to play our guys. Right? So it's going to be a dogfight. That last game is going to be a dogfight. But if I see anybody sneaking in outside of that, maybe Seattle, maybe.
So I look at
this. But then there'll be 3 teams in the West.
I see 49ers, Cowboys, Lions. Buccaneers will probably win that division. Eagles, of course, will be in. Packers, I think, are going to be in. I think the Vikings are going to slide out. The Rams are going to slide into the Vikings spot. And it may be the Packers are 6 and the Rams are 7. But I think that's what we're going to look at. I think the Rams are going to be that 7th team that are going to get in. The Vikings are going to be outside looking in. Now, when we look at the AFC,
it's a shit show.
Be a little bit more clear cut, but it's not, right?
It's
you
a
got
shit
the Ravens
show.
at the top and the Dolphins. Other than that, it's a mess. The Chiefs at 8-5, the Jaguars 8-5, the Browns 8-5. The Steelers and the Colts right now are holding on at 6-7. You've got the Texans and the Broncos and the Bengals, who we left for dead.
6 teams, 7-6,
and the Bills all kind of hanging on. Who's gonna finish and who's gonna be in the playoffs in the AFC?
Well, obviously you got the 3 teams I think are really sitting nice. I think Cleveland's gonna make a nice little push, despite especially with Flacco's understanding of what he has to do.
Yeah.
I think Jacksonville falls out of this. I think Pittsburgh falls out of this. I think Indianapolis and Houston find a way, and maybe Denver finds a way. But I also think, don't be surprised if the Bengals and Buffalo go in there. So if I had to choose just 7 teams, sadly, I go 1 with Baltimore, 2 Miami, 3 Kansas City, 4 Cleveland, 5 Indianapolis, 6 Houston, and 7 is the Broncos.
All right. I'm going to go.
No, take Indy out and put Buffalo in. Throw it in, Josh. Go get it done.
I'm going to say, based on what we've seen from the last couple of weeks, from the Bengals, from the Bills yesterday, I think the Bills are going to find a way. The Ravens, Dolphins, Chiefs, I think the Jaguars will win their division. The Browns will win their division. So, there's that. Or the Ravens, rather, will win their division. The Browns will come in second and get into the playoffs. I think the Steelers will drop out. I think the Colts are going to drop out. Well, you know what? I don't know now. I think it depends how long CJ's out for. But I think the Colts could win. The Texans are out. I want to say the Broncos are going to go in, but I think it's going to be the Bills. I think the Bills will be the last team in. I think since he's going to struggle to get in, I think the Bills will find a way. Now, that being said,
they're sitting at 11 right now.
If the Bills lose this week to Dallas, it's over for them. Every game's a must-win for them at this point.
And that's why I feel like they're going to beat you.
They might, but I think they blew the nut this week in Kansas City.
They blew their load this week.
That's right. Premature.
All
right. Well, let's move on. I think we've got our playoff picture. That's going to change in a week, so we'll keep you guys updated week to week on where that sits. Let's go to some hot topics. First one up, we go to college. Jaden Daniels wins the Heisman Trophy. Did he deserve it? Was he the guy you thought would win it?
Hell yes.
Yeah.
No question. Like, I can't believe the other 3 guys even showed up.
Whoa. Wow.
Like, really what he did in the SEC? Come on, man.
Well, look,
nothing's
he had equal running and passing
amazing there.
Which is crazy. Yeah. He had a Joe Burrow type year, but he could also run like Lamar Jackson in college. So
yeah, he's freaking going bananas, man. Hopefully, man, he finds a way to stay in Louisiana and the Saints take him.
Is he an NFL guy? I mean,
yes.
He has the numbers. To me, I think I need to see about 20 pounds, maybe 20, 30 pounds.
Yeah, he's a little light.
He's a little slight.
I mean, he'll get better, but his skill set is definitely there in the NFL. I personally would take him as the number 1 pick.
Okay, number 1 pick.
Some number 1 pick
over Penix.
Because the reason why I say that is because this kid is battle tested, right? And not to say Penix isn't, right? They play in a very high-powered offense, right, where Penix has 2 first-round receivers. You couldn't name me 5 players on LSU's team.
Right.
And that's not to take away from LSU because historically they've always been great. They've always had talent. But what Jaden Daniels did was single-handedly take over the SEC despite his team's deficiencies.
Yeah.
And I think when you take a guy like that and you plug him into a place where he can have success, don't go to a place where it's just a dumpster fire. I think you get a good team around you. Hopefully New Orleans takes the bait and is aggressive as possible. And I know our client, Pete Johnson from Spring Hill, would really love this pick. And I think they need to go after him. I think they need to trade up if they have any capital to do so, and they need to go get your guy. It looks like you're probably going to miss the playoffs, right? And you need to go get your guy.
Okay. All right. Topic number 2. This is a big one. Chiefs game yesterday. Kadarius Toney lines up offsides on a play in which Travis Kelce makes one of the most incredible plays of the year.
That was
Catches
cool.
the ball downfield.
Yep.
Turns around, doesn't lateral it, literally throws it backwards.
Dart.
And Toney takes off for the touchdown.
Looked like flat football.
It was insane. It was a great play. Now, Toney lined up offsides. As a guy that once played some receiver in my life, even if you're inside, you still have to look at the ref.
Right.
And you have to make sure, because the ref will tell you, step up, step back, or you're okay. You can't just assume. And he was clearly offsides.
Sure. Yeah, he was.
What I'm going to talk to you about right now is the reaction from one Mr. Patrick Mahomes. When have we seen anybody take their helmet, slam it on the ground multiple times, had to be held back from yelling at the referee, and was essentially tackled by his own team on the sideline? As the game is still going on, he is going after the referee. And he was completely in the wrong. What do you make of that?
Man, you would have thought, as heated as Patrick Mahomes was, somebody said something about his wife.
Right? I've never seen
Man,
that.
I've never seen anybody act out that way when they were so wrong.
So wrong. He was all sides.
Like, now, if we're going to talk about putting the game in the ref's hands, well, let's take it. Let's rewind history here, Mr. Patrick Mahomes, since you aren't very fond of the refs. I think the refs actually, in a sense, have boosted your career to a degree. Has it not?
What
happened? What happened during that time, during the 2019 Super Bowl, when Patrick Mahomes scrambles around, their right tackle or left tackle just holds the crap out of Nick Bosa? You can see it in the picture like this. And he throws the lollipop to Tyreek Hill. That puts them up. Gives them the Super Bowl. Last year, Juju Smith-Schuster, when they called the pass interference on Slay. Come on, man. That was just ball, right?
Wow.
So he's had 2 of these dramatic, game-altering decisions made by the ref, and he got away with it. This time, you didn't get away with it. Now you act like a little crybaby. It's like, okay, you've had these calls your whole damn career, bro. Like, just nut up and take it. You're about to be on the road in the playoffs, and I'm sure you're good as hell. You'll figure it out and find a way to get it done. End of discussion.
What I didn't like about it,
I thought it was classless.
What I didn't like about it, outside of going after the ref and yelling and screaming and just throwing a temper tantrum during the game, was the way he conducted himself after the game in the middle of the field with Josh Allen. Instead of congratulations, good job. I mean, these guys are friends. How many times has Josh Allen had his heart broken at the end of the game and had to go out, shake Patrick's hand, wish him good luck, and all that sort of thing? And all Patrick could say to him at the midfield line last night was, worst fucking call I've ever seen. Like, that's not what you say to the opposing quarterback. You congratulate him on exercising some demons. That's your friend at the end of the day. I get you're in the moment. I hope that he called Josh or texted him at some point today and was like, bro, I'm sorry. I was caught up in the moment. Great job last night. Congratulations. Because that really, man, I didn't like to see that from Patrick.
Somebody was crybabying the way his voice is like Kermit.
Yeah, I did not. I didn't like it.
Hey, man, I'm not going to lie. As good as they have been for so many years, makes me have a little smile because I've seen us get screwed by calls that altered the game, essentially.
Yeah.
And now you're experiencing it.
Fair enough. All right. I'm going to love this one. All right. Hot topic number 3. There was once a team back in the 80s, in 1986, called the New York Jets. They still exist today. They were 10-1 in 1986, and they ended up missing the playoffs.
Wow.
The Philadelphia Eagles have lost 2 games in a row. Are they the 86 Jets?
No.
No. Come on,
Why
man.
would you even ask that? Next.
Well, they had a big conversation about this on NFL.
I can't, like, the nerve of these guys.
Listen, I'd like to say yes. They would have been had they lost the other games that were very close with the Bills and who else did they escape from? The Chiefs. But bottom line is their schedule is very easy, the last portion. I think that they could lose this week against Seattle. But after that, they've got the Giants twice and some others.
I mean, if they lose to Seattle, then the division's yours.
Maybe.
They too have to win out. They too have to win out.
We have a gauntlet coming up. We have our gauntlet.
Yeah, boy.
So anyway, part number 3, hot topic number 3. We touched on this earlier in the day. Joe Flacco off the couch and winning games. Brandon, my question to you, you can't even ask me this. I'm almost 52 years old. I absolutely cannot get off the couch at this point. But you are a spry young man. You just got done playing football about 4 or 5 years ago. If someone called you today, could you get off the couch, throw for 311 and 3 touchdowns in an NFL game?
If you give me a week of practice, for sure.
Okay. But you've never done that in an NFL game.
No, never played in the NFL, unfortunately. But considering he was a 15-year vet, if you put me in the league for 15 years, you have to marvel at it because it just shows his ability to compartmentalize in a timely fashion and be able to execute and also understand his teammates, their weaknesses, their strengths, and how you can enhance their strengths and work on their weaknesses as well. This guy's been around the block. I mean, he was a 15-year NFL vet, former Super Bowl MVP, won many playoff games, many 10+ wins
this time of year.
Yeah, and so Flacco understands the narrative of his thing, and I think he's doing a tremendous job at it.
Ooh, this could be a story.
I don't think Cleveland's up. I don't think Cleveland's out at all.
Not now. Not now. They're not.
It may have just shook up something to where they can probably play spoiler to a lot of teams.
Well, I mean, it's not just spoiler. They're 8-5. The Ravens are only 10-3.
No,
I mean, with the other teams, you expect the Browns to be in the playoffs. They could make a run.
I say spoiler because you look at the playoff scenario, right? They're sitting at 5. Okay, they're probably going to take on Jacksonville. They're going to beat Jacksonville, right? If it was standings today, then you turn around and you have to play Kansas City. They're going to beat Kansas City potentially.
They could.
They could give their team fits because defensively, they're amazing. And now if you got Joe Flacco who can score more than 20 points a game, now you can really slow this thing down and keep Mahomes off the field and force turnover, excuse me.
Could we see a Browns-Ravens AFC title game?
You could.
Oh, God.
I would not be surprised. I would not be shocked if somehow they figured it out.
How ironic is that? Because Baltimore, for those of you that might be younger and don't know, that might be tuning in, Baltimore was born from Cleveland. The Baltimore Ravens were the Cleveland Browns. There was no Cleveland Browns when Cleveland moved to Baltimore.
Right.
That was a big thing for a long time. A lot of people really rejected that and hated that. I didn't like the Ravens because of the way that went down for years. And now the Browns and Ravens are both good. That's crazy.
Right.
That's
sounds
excellent.
Really good.
So speaking of Joe Flacco, right? He's got the Browns back reinvigorated, but the injuries continue to mount in the NFL. CJ got hurt yesterday, his first NFL injury. Justin Herbert might be out for the year. He hurt his index finger yesterday. The Chargers not being in the hunt, but still another top quarterback is out. We had 7 new quarterbacks playing yesterday. I think you have the list of who they are, but man, number one, is this going to affect the playoffs? Outside of Joe Flacco, are we going to see any of these quarterbacks that have had to step in for Joe Burrow or somebody like that, rise to the occasion and make a run? And should the NFL change their roster rules to accommodate a third bona fide quarterback on the NFL roster?
I 100% think they should, because you really kill the game when you don't have a quarterback that could actually take a snap.
Right.
Case in point, 49ers.
49ers
we lose both of our quarterbacks. Don't even have a quarterback to even know how to take a snap and run a simple 22 dive, right? Or even run a simple smash concept, right? I think it's paramount to team success now. It's almost become as important as a second running back.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
I agree.
I mean, you look at the top teams right now, and you can tell me their backup quarterbacks, and I can tell you, okay, are they good or they're not? Dallas Cowboys, Cooper Rush. I think they're good for a couple games, right?
Yeah.
Pains me to say it. Sam Darnold in this offense, I think he's okay, right?
Yeah, you're decent.
Marcus Mariota, I think he's okay in the Philly offense, right? And so you had several quarterbacks that started this past week. Drew Lock had to step in, and granted, you may see on the stat line, he turned the ball over twice, but Drew Lock played really freaking well. I'm not even playing.
Is still playing well.
Yeah, Jake Browning's playing really well. You had Zach Wilson who came back in. He was in street clothes last week. Came back and had a 300-yard plus day. Joe Flacco was on the couch eating bonbons, and drinking Smoothie King. Came out and dominated. Mitch Trubisky. Bailey Zappi. Davis Mills. Ethan Stick. There's a lot of guys that have played. Last year, it was a total of 70 backup quarterbacks played last year. 70.
So for those
that's a lot.
That don't know the rule, you're allowed 2 quarterbacks. You can have an emergency quarterback on your roster, which the Cowboys do, but that keeps you from having another roster spot. To me, I feel like
that hurts.
Either make it 54, right? By the way, the roster limit used to be 46 back in the day, but either make it 54 or make it 53 with you get to have a third quarterback, right?
Right. You need 3, man. You need 3. I mean, just for services, just emergency services. But I really thinking this thing is coming down to you need to have a bona fide backup quarterback. You really do. You need to have a guy that can win you 1 or 2 games or at least put you in a position to do so, because this is a long season. This is 17 games.
Long season, man.
Long season. I can't believe we're in the back end of it, the last quarter of it. So
we sure are.
I think it's very paramount to team success if they want to get through.
Yeah, I agree with you. Couldn't agree more, actually.
Hey,
So as we move on, that's going to wrap up conversations of the prior week. But boy, we've got a big week coming up. Of course, we got a couple big games here tonight on Monday night, but by the time people see this, Monday night will be past. But boy, we got some big quarterback matchups coming up next week. Just firing some off. I'll start with one. It's obvious. Dak versus Josh Allen in Buffalo. Give me one. Huge. Give me another one. I know you got some in the bag.
Not really, man. This week is kind of.
All right, let me go down there.
But I will say right now, I give you one.
Give me one.
Russell Wilson versus Flacco, or Russell Wilson versus Jared Goff.
Yes, sir. Huge game for the Lions.
That's a huge game.
For both,
huge game.
Huge game for both.
Huge game.
Bucks at the Packers. That's a playoff game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Ravens at Jags. Ravens need to keep winning because the Browns are going to keep winning. It looks like, and the Jags need to prove that they can win some games. Right?
Geno versus Jalen Hurts.
Big game for the Jags. Eagles Seahawks is a huge game. The Eagles are on a two game slide, and they're going against a Seahawks team that's not winning, but they've been putting up points. They've been putting up points, and the Eagles haven't been putting up points.
Here's another one that people, I think this is a spoiler, got written all over it. Joe Flacco versus Justin Fields.
The Bears have been playing spoiler.
The kid comes back to Ohio. Could he play spoiler?
Listen, we're going to talk about this maybe next week or the week after. But we need to really dive deep into the Justin Fields Chicago Bears conversation.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a real
there's
good
so
one.
much that can go on there. But yeah, that's a huge game. I think every game is huge for Justin Fields right now.
Sure.
For his future, whether in Chicago or outside of it, he needs to continue to play well. And he is. He's playing very well.
Gotcha.
To an extent. They beat the Lions, so he's playing good enough.
Hey, done enough.
So as we talk about next week, I know that you are on fire in all of your fantasy. By the way, you made a great trade. Tell the folks about the wide receiver trade that you made not long ago that you finessed XO out of.
I really wouldn't say it was a finesse, but I knew that Stefan absolutely loves Justin Jefferson. Right? He's a Vikings guy.
Right.
And this is right after Justin Jefferson has a hamstring problem, right? And he still wanted Justin Jefferson. He was like, I don't care, I'll take it. He was going to give me someone. I was like, hey, what do you got out there? I'll give you Tony Pollard. I was like, I don't really want Tony Pollard. I'll give you CeeDee Lamb. Really?
Okay.
Thank you. And ever since then, not only has he been a dominant receiver for me in fantasy, but he has had one of the most dominant Cowboy individual seasons that we've seen in a while, since like a Dez Bryant.
Yeah.
Right? So, great. I mean, he's number 3 in receiving. He's going crazy right now. I mean, that was just, I wouldn't say I finesse my boy, but I just know his love and admiration for Double J would allow me to lure in a receiver that he always thought was a number 2 receiver.
That is literally the definition of finesse, but okay. Whatever you think.
Hey, I'm a businessman, okay? I had to make a move.
Oh, boy, and this is why I don't play fantasy anymore. So tell us about your picks coming into this week. We know we've got some incredible matchups. Who's going to put up the points this week?
Well, we all know it is playoff week coming up, and good thing for me, I have all buys, so I'm not going to be playing anybody. I'm just going to sit down and watch everybody, see what team I have. So fingers crossed, hope for me. But if you were to play a quarterback, I go with Lamar versus the Jags. I think that's very strong. I also like Dak versus the Bills. I like that. I like that very much. I like Matt Stafford versus the Commanders. I feel like he continues that pace. Going down the list. Ooh, I mean, Brock Purdy versus the Cardinals. Last time Brock Purdy played the Cardinals, the dude was 95% completion percentage. 22 of 23, 200 plus yards, and 2 TDs, no picks. Yeah, if you want efficiency, go with those picks. I'd stay away from Tua versus the Jets. I think that's a bad matchup. Don't know why. Just doesn't feel well. I'd stay away from CJ if he comes back on concussion protocol. I'd stay away from that. I'd stay away from Jordan Love versus the Bucks. Especially in now I know it is in Lambeau, right? I get it. But
that could be a long day.
Something about that tells me that Jordan Love's going to have to do more than what he's asked to do. Right? And last but not least, I got Jalen Hurts versus the Seahawks. I can't see him not
set people up for failure.
Turning up. I can't. He scored a low, and hey, I had Jalen Hurts this week. He scored a low 12 points. That's the lowest he scored all year. Right? I think he'll bounce back from that. Luckily, I got Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts as my quarterbacks. So I felt bad. I left Brock on the bench this week, and dude gave me 38 points. And now I'm in a potential dogfight if Jalen Waddle doesn't go off or Tyreek Hill. So hopefully those two go off tonight and put on an air show. So that's all I got.
Fantastic. Well, this episode brought to you by Black Rifle Coffee. I live on these things. So Black Rifle Coffee, go ahead and send me a box of this espresso with cream. Very delicious. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the QB Huddle podcast. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. Let's keep an eye out for the Couch Coach that'll drop later this week. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to our incredible producer, Mark Watson.
Thank you, sir.
For my podcast partner in San Francisco, fanatic Brandon Noohi, I'm Tim Smith. We'll see you next week on the QB Huddle podcast.
Peace.
Peace.